Hey, so as the name suggests, I wanted to talk about death anxiety a little bit today. The reason for this topic is actually quite relevant to all of us, especially when it comes to attachment. Attachment not only with people but also with things that we acquire, things that we purchase, things that are relevant to our inheritance, then everything gets a little bit more complicated when attachment turns to people. We sort of get familiar and comfortable with this idea of us being kind of possessions of our parents, and that's how we are raised. We feel like we belong to our family, we belong to our culture, we belong to our religion, we belong to our ethnicity, we belong to our government, we belong to our country, we belong to so many things and so many people that at the end of the day we kind of forget that most importantly we belong to ourselves. Okay, we are not freaking property of anyone. No one is a property of anyone or anything or any idea. Any abstract concept doesn't own us. However, this is how we are raised, and this is how our expectations are set, that since we belong to other people and we belong to other things and other concepts, it just makes sense. It's just logical that other people and other things also belong to us. And this is what creates this whole dilemma of not being able to let things go. Since if there's someone or something that belongs to you, of course, that's your possession now, and you can't let it go. And it's also really relevant to this age of competition that we consider as a rat race, where everyone is trying to acquire everything that they're supposed to. They are obsessed with overcoming all of the obstacles in front of them just to get at the end of a milestone that's been set by other people or other generations years ago or millennia ago maybe, but everybody's still following it. Anyhow, so the concept of rat race reaches towards an end goal of having everything perfect for yourself, basically. So a perfect life, a perfect face, a perfect body, a perfect partner, a perfect job, a perfect house. Everything's supposed to be perfect. You can't have anything that has flaws, because if there's one single tiny flaw in anything, that makes you a failure, and of course nobody wants to feel like a failure. But the main reason for our pursuit of this rat race is the pursuit of immortality. So we kind of hide this whole idea of trying to be immortal behind this idea of pursuit of happiness, which is of course everyone's right. But we confuse these two concepts because of course, like, who knows, right? It's not like they teach this kind of stuff in schools and colleges. They really don't, because it's not productive and it's not in any sense of benefit to anyone else except your own self. So the pursuit of happiness generally just signifies that you go after things that genuinely interest you, that you're genuinely passionate about, instead of pursuing things that you think will make other people think that you're getting the things that you want, which is kind of like really, really tragic, right? But that's what we do. So our obsession with having this curated virtual image, that's all the rage now, since we are in the technological era, is of course a pursuit of being immortal. From times immemorial, before technology, before internet, this was a dream that could not be fulfilled by everyone, of course, because not everyone had the right family, not everyone had the right ancestry, the right resources. Only a few select people could ever hope to reach that echelon of supremacy where they could rule and feel like that they would be immortalized in the history books. That's why people tried to conquer different nations and ruled over cities and countries and entire, whatever. So, but now it's very difficult to be a monarch anymore, right? Because we only have monarchy left in what, a few places, and even there, people are not entirely happy with the whole idea. So, what do common people do when they don't really have any chance of being immortal, of being immortalized in history? Well, we have Instagram now, we have social media, where your images, once uploaded, will never disappear, and everyone is going to look at you forever and ever. But you have to make sure that you leave a lasting impression, right? So that's why people pursue fame or popularity or relevance in any sense, because that's their idea of leaving their mark on the virtual annals of history forever. And in that pursuit, they kind of forget the things that they were actually supposed to care about. And most cruelties in our world occur due to these reasons. In our obsession to be immortalized, to make it known that we exist, that we are valuable, that we are worthy of love, we commit horrible sufferings. We inflict horrible sufferings on the rest of the world around us just because we want freaking attention, right? And that's actually something that I'm doing right now, but like, let's not think about that for a second. But my point is, there are different kinds of attention that we seek from the world. The problem with social media attention, and just like this whole thing about presenting such a perfect life to other people, that you appear like an alpha or a dominant person who has everyone else looking up at them instead of looking down at you. Nobody wants to be looked down at. Everybody wants to be up there at some kind of freaking pedestal where everybody bows down to them. And that's the entire idea of Instagram and social media. You don't want your peers to know that you have an ordinary job, or that you're not important to other people, and that you have basically no relevance. So there are of course a lot of documentaries done on this issue, and I'm not saying anything new, but this is relevant to my own life, and it's very relevant to the lives of people that I know. And it's, oh my god, it's so freaking stupid that I cannot believe that this even exists. Just because people are so damn envious of these freaking Instagram models and everyone else who cakes their face with makeup all the time, and they've harbored so many freaking insecurities just because other people are displaying or showcasing their life in front of them, that they make such terrible, disgusting decisions in their own life. It's become like a habit for all of us to take every single decision based on how it is going to appear on freaking Instagram. That's all we care about. We don't care about the people that we are dating. We don't care about the kind of people that we are making friends with, and we don't care about our family unless it's Mother's Day or Father's Day, and then we have to post pictures of that on Instagram. Otherwise, our parents or our children don't freaking exist. But I'm just saying that it doesn't freaking matter what kind of life anyone in your social circle is living, because it's all a big fat lie. It doesn't matter how rich they are, how popular they are, how beautiful you think they are. It's not true. In reality, you have beautiful days and you have ugly days. Okay, you have good hair days, you have bad hair days, you have good relationship days, and then there are days when you fight, right? There are days when you spend quality time with your family, and there are going to be days when you fight with them like cats and dogs. But everybody doesn't show that on freaking Instagram, right? So if they don't show it, the rest of us probably think that they have a damn perfect life, and that's just not true. And just to just to get that idea of this obsessed perfectionism that my life is perfect, we ruin every single ounce of happiness in not only our lives but in everybody else's life, because of course we are the center of the universe, right? We are the god particle. Everything has to happen exactly as we want. And it's going to be a very bad reality check when you actually figure out that no, we are not the center of the universe and we are not god particles, and everything doesn't bend to our will as we move in the space-time, in the fabric of space-time. Of course it doesn't, because it doesn't, right? It doesn't. I say right a lot, but that's because I'm usually right. That's such a narcissistic thing to do or say. But anyway, um, okay, so what else did I want to talk about? Yeah, I actually was reading this really amazing book by Steven Weinberg, who is an esteemed physicist, and it's called The First 3 Minutes. So it's basically a little bit about how the universe began. So how he explains, like, I am never going to be able to explain it in its entirety or even accurately, but I'm going to just give you a gist of it because I want to create an analogy of how universe began and how it's going to end to our human life cycle. Okay, so just bear with me. So the universe started in a kind of very high temperature and very high density state where the temperature was so damn high that no particles or no molecules could actually form. No particles could bond together to form atoms or molecules. It was that hot. And the density of the universe was also really, really high. So right now our density is sort of light, and it's spread out in all directions because we have an accelerating expansion going on with the universe. That's why we are not cramped together, and gravity isn't that strong between celestial bodies. But when the universe was initially beginning, how it came into existence was that first it was a soup of hot matter, just disintegrated matter everywhere, and then it sort of slowly started cooling down, and everything settled or became a little bit more stable. So initially the universe was in a state of thermonuclear balance, which means that every particle's energy was roughly equal to its antiparticle, and it was basically equivalence of energy. That's what we know. But eventually, as the matter started forming, as our universe started forming in the way that we know it to be, everything started cooling down. The thermal equilibrium also broke down. But at the moment when there was thermal equilibrium, everything was equal to everything else. And then of course we came into existence. Earth formed, stars formed due to that heavy metals or particles that existed in that soupy atmosphere. So as we know, our universe is majorly made of 70% hydrogen, I think, and 30% helium. These were the most prominent particles that were part of the early universe, and this is the basic building block. These are the basic building blocks out of which everything else is formed. Then our stars formed, of course. Matter started clumping together. It started heating up because of all the friction and all of the forces. Things started either gravitating towards each other or away from each other, and eventually the expansion pulled everything apart. Galaxies formed, our solar system formed. And that's also sort of how we are conjecturing that it will end, but we don't really know because nobody really knows what the fuck happened, We don't know what happened, and we don't know what is going to happen. But everyone has sort of a theory about a mathematically accepted, respectable theory about how it started and how it's gonna end. So, according to the most popular theories, how the universe is going to end is it's going to expand forever and ever until a point where it's going to start contracting, or the expansion is going to slow down, and it's eventually going to contract back, and everything is going to come together once again. And according to Sir Roger Penrose, who is also another very awesome physicist, awesome scientist, really love him. Um, According to him, it's just going to contract until it comes back to the original density of how our universe formed, and it's going to create another big bang. So I think there's a book which I really want to read, by the way. It's called Cycles of Time, and in that book he basically explains how we live in a cyclical nature of existence, that everything begins, it expands, and then it eventually cools down, slows down, and it starts contracting, and it comes together to the same really tight density, and then everything explodes again. So that's our nature of existence that we don't accept in our everyday life. So it's a very beautiful analogy to our life cycle as well, because we start as what do you call it, embryos, right? We start as embryos, we start as tiny little people, and then we grow up, we start acquiring things, and that's the analogy for matter forming and stars forming, planets forming, everything gravitating towards certain whatever solar system or galaxy system they have. So we form friendships, we form relationships, we form families, social circles, business circles, whatever circles, and then eventually, now our universe sort of expands, and then just like the actual universe around us, our personal universe starts contracting, because our children leave for school, they leave for colleges, they start their own thing, they start their own jobs or businesses or whatever, they get married, they have children, they move away. So in a sense, our universe starts contracting again, and eventually it's going to end in death. And death is something that somehow people have the most problem with. It's the even though it's the most inevitable freaking thing in the entire world, everything is going to die. Even all of the stars that you think are in the universe that you think is freaking infinite is going to die. So if you just look at the bigger perspective of this entire freaking thing that we live in, this reality, this larger reality that we live in, it can become a little bit easier to accept that everything has a beginning and everything has an inevitable end. And even the death of the universe is so damn poetic, as in they describe it as something like, eventually the stars are going to let go of all of their heat, they're going to be devoid of all the temperature, and everything's supposed to cool down until there's no light left, and the stars are going to explode on in themselves, and the universe is going to be dark, there are going to be just black holes all around, there's going to be no light, no life, no whatsoever, and eventually it's just going to be a void. And that's what we are freaking afraid of. We are afraid of the unknown. We are afraid of the void, where there's just darkness, there's just nothing, nowhere. And that's why we cling so desperately to things and people, because we are afraid of what the unknown has for us. And it's a most beautiful tragedy, because it's only the point of when we actually let go of things or labels or ideas of what our life is supposed to be, is when we find things that we should be caring about, that we're actually good at. And maybe it's only then we find real friendships or real relationships, because right now in this social media world, we don't have real friends, we don't have real relationships. Okay, we're using people. That's what we're doing. We're using people to get a little bit of boost of confidence or boost of whatever, ego stroking, or all of that. So I would actually, now that my rant is over, I would actually like to end with this little paragraph by Steven Weinberg that he wrote in his book that I really like. And it says, "But if there is no solace in the fruits of our research, there is at least some consolation in the research itself. Men and women are not content to comfort themselves with tales of gods and giants, or to confine their thoughts to the daily affairs of life. They also build telescopes, and satellites and accelerators and sit at their desks for endless hours working out the meaning of the data that they gather about the universe. The effort to understand the universe is one of the very few things that lifts human life a little bit above the level of farce and gives it some of the grace of tragedy. So it's just that curiosity towards what the world actually is, which is of course magnanimous and beautiful. And we can only stand or sit in wonder and awe about how amazing or how magnificent everything is. It's only in those moments that I ever feel like I'm truly really happy. And I feel like I'm fulfilling a kind of purpose that wasn't there before, but now it is. And if only everyone could just distance themselves from this whole fake world that we live in, this virtual reality or matrix that we live in, plugged into it all day, all night, 24/7, and actually live in the wondrous universe, our Earth, our galaxy, our solar system. Just think about all of these things or whatever else, just something real. I think that will eliminate a lot of people's bad ideas, bad decisions, life decisions that they take, the suffering that they cause, the suffering that we cause because of these decisions when we just don't trust the universe enough to explore it a little bit. And that's what I really wanted to express. I feel so much lighter because these are the things that I wanted to say or talk about for such a long time, and now I have like out of my system. So I hope that we get more people who care about these things and less about whatever hell we are living in right now.